Because I was inverted. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today I got the armchair quarterback in time in my basement. And hey, Dan, I see you here. So yeah, a little bit of funny flying going on over by Crimea over there, and interesting video that was released by the American military. So I figured it's kind of timely, and I love whipping out the old armchair here for a little armchair quarterback and figuring out what happened here. This is very unusual. But it was. I also thought it was really strange when I heard about that there was some Russian plane hit a drone, uh, came up from behind, and it's like I was talking about that on a show like just a little while ago, going through 1940s magazines and how I read in the 1940s magazine, it's like, oh, the Soviet Union plans to do this by taking out the bombers by going up behind and hitting it. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. I just talked about that. But that's not exactly how it happened. I will be putting, after the show's done here, I'm going to be putting a link in the description below to the video that I'm referring to. And so I watched it over and over again because that's what pilots do. And yeah, so I wanted to see, is this fake? Is this fake news? And so I guess I should probably start out by saying that, like, I don't, on the Super Pilotish channel, I try not to be too political, or there's just a few things I don't talk about. It's just my own personal rule for the channel. I don't directly talk about politics, religion, skin pigmentation, or genitalia. I leave that out, and then I should be covered and not banned. So, anyways, I'm not going to be talking too political here today, but they are military airplanes, and even if you are talking about air regulations, it's the government that does that. So it's kind of hard to avoid the politics. So I will be whipping out my whiteboard today, and just to show you a few little things I was thinking about. So yeah, like I was saying, that there was a drone that was flying around, and according to the video, there were two aircraft involved. If you see it on the news, the actual full video is 42 seconds long. So if you see less than 42 seconds, it's been cut, edited. Maybe they left an airplane out, or this might be old news by now. I'm not sure. But the video shows at the very beginning, to the trained eye. Okay, so it's from the American Reaper drone, the Reaper drone, and it shows that you could see some land off in the distance. So it's not like it was like in the middle of an ocean or anything like that. They said it was in the Black Sea, or over the Black Sea. And so you could see one jet comes up, and you see something coming out the back. They said that they were dumping fuel. Why were they doing that? Who knows? And then if you really look closely at about 3 or 4 seconds, way in the back, you can see there's another jet just behind it, a few seconds. It's just a little white dot, but there is another jet coming up fast with it. So the airplane comes up. What do we got here? We'll use the KD-12X. So yeah, so okay, this will be the drone, and then this will be, rather than just talking with my hands, I'll use actual airplanes. So here's your drone, and the camera's kind of shooting off back here that way, and here comes the other plane a little bit lower, and from probably about, I don't know, it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock position. And it kind of comes up like this, starts jettisoning fuel, and then kind of goes off like that. So it kind of goes spoosh like that. And then, so yeah, I noticed it did come very close. You shouldn't be flying that close. and I noticed that the plane did. If you have a big fast jet coming like this, and he's coming up, you're going to have the thrust. The thrust from the tail is going to knock that wing down a little bit, and that will cause the plane to yaw a little bit too. So that movement did happen. So that makes sense. That would be realistic. Of course, flight simulators do the same thing, so who knows? But we'll treat it as as the real deal. Okay, so he just sprayed some jet fuel, and I did look into it that type of jet can dump fuel. It's apparently it's a little bit more common on the fighter jets that take off and land on aircraft carriers, because if you think about it, all these jets will take off with all kinds of armaments on them, extra fuel tanks. So I did notice that we'll just leave the drone right there. Yeah, so the plane that did come up, it had what I saw. It did have some missiles on it under the wings. There were some missiles attached. So they could have shot the drone, but they were just kind of playing around with it, I think. And they said, hey, yeah, maybe they drank too much vodka that day, and they're like, hey, yeah, let's go spray the drone. So, oh, hey, Dave. How you doing, Dave? Yeah, so it's okay. Yeah, so they can dump fuel there because some planes have a maximum landing weight. So it kind of makes sense that if you had a plane that was taking off of an aircraft carrier, you got it all. That's my drone. Okay, you got it all loaded up with all your bombs and full fuel, and got all the rounds in there for the gun. That's a really heavy plane, and then you come back and try to get catch the wire with the tail hook. That's not going to work, and it's going to be hard on your landing gear. So I mean, it's not uncommon for planes to have a maximum landing weight. Airliners have that too. So anyways, so they do have I looked at it, and they do have the ability to dump fuel. So so if something happened, you're all filled up with all your rockets and bombs and everything. Oh, got to get back to the aircraft carrier, dump the fuel. Now you're at a good weight. Now you can come in and catch the tail hook. Okay, so that's realistic about it. And so didn't really do too much there. And the thing is, it's kind of like I have a feeling that I don't know it. I've heard it from a few people that have been that used to fly jets back during the Cold War, and quite frequently, what would happen is that between the NATO forces and the Soviet Union, the guys would play kind of games with each other. I know one he used to go out and look for they flew a plane around that would go looking for like submarines and stuff like that. And one time they found one guy was talking about it, and they found the submarine that surfaced, and so they thought they'd go down and check it out. And it was a Soviet submarine, and it was a Canadian plane, so they just went down to check it out low level, and they flew by, and all the sailors were waving at them and stuff. So, I mean, soldier to soldier, they do kind of joke around sometimes. Although this is kind of a little kind of high tension, and okay, the first part looked realistic. The second part's where they actually and then after that, the propeller looked fine towards the back. The drone it's got like kind of a V tail on it, not like this. It's got like there's your tail. It's a V, and they have what they call rudder vaders on there. Anyways, the propeller's actually at the back of the drone, and the camera pans around, and you can see the propeller. First pass, no problem. Okay, the second pass around. Okay, I guess I'll kind of talk to this too. Like, okay, why was this drone flying around here? Why would they even get involved in the first place? So the best that I could figure it out is that the Americans, they like on the news and stuff, they say they had to put it down in international waters. Well, there's international waters. Sometimes there's international waters, but there's airspace on top of that go out over the international waters. So you can have ships going around there all you want, but a lot of times the airspace that's controlled by a country kind of goes out over top of the international waters. So just because you're flying over the international waters doesn't necessarily mean that you're allowed to fly there, because you're reporting to some sort of air defense identification zone or like some other entity that's controlling that airspace, usually, for safety. So the big contention here is that okay, the best that I can tell is that, okay, there was all this stuff going on with Ukraine, Crimea, Donbass region, all this other, you want to get all political, fine. But what I can tell is that, a few years ago, how legitimate it is or not, the people in Crimea said, hey, we don't want to be part of the Ukraine. We want to be part of Russia. Okay. And then Russia said, yeah, cool. You're part of Russia. Here you go. Welcome to Russia. So in the Russians' minds, Crimea is now Russia. It's just as Russian as a suburb of Moscow. So, and under that thinking, they said, okay, guys, we got some stuff going on here with the Ukraine for flight safety. Everybody stay out of our airspace. Okay, so, and if you look on FlightAware, you can see that's where all the jets, they kind of scoop around that area. So they're paying attention to the advisory that the Russians have given. Now, the Americans don't recognize that. The airliners do, because they don't want to get shot down. But the military, they're like, I think they're kind of testing the waters, see what they got, see what they can get away with. And, they're playing their little games. And so, so that's why the Americans thought, oh, yeah, this, we never recognized it. So this is international airspace and I can fly here all I want, or it's Ukrainian airspace or something. And then, so they were kind of poking the bear a little bit there just to see what happens. And so, okay, the second airplane came by. Here's our drone. Now he saw what his buddy did and said, and I can almost, like, fighter pilots are just the most competitive people in the world. So it's like the one guy said, oh, he didn't do anything there. And like, why would they be spraying jet fuel? I don't know, mess up some sensors and have the ground crew have to clean it up, or something like that. That Jet A, or it smells just like diesel fuel, sticks around forever. So the second guy comes up and he just kind of got even closer, and he got a very high angle of attack on the when he was coming up. So I think they were flying at slower speeds, which required a higher kind of nose up attitude like this. And at that point, he couldn't see where he was, and kind of got a little close. I have a feeling he was turning, and then I think the wing might have clipped the propeller. That's my guess, because I don't think, just at the position of where the V tail is on it, it's pretty wide. I have a feeling the wingtip just clipped the propeller there a little bit. And so you can see the propeller on the plane. It's a 3-bladed propeller on that plane. It's a turboprop, which is basically, it's like a jet. It's like a jet, but they put a propeller on it, kind of like I don't know, Dash 8, if you're familiar with it, Q400. So so the propeller was damaged. Okay, I could see the one blade was totally bent over. The other blade was in what they call the feathered position. So I think I need another training aid here for that. Got my training aid here. I was going to do this before, but you know what happens when pilots start watching videos on YouTube? You just get carried away, and then that's why I started a minute late, because I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Okay, so here's my propeller. Let's make that a little bit more like a propeller. This is very high tech. We'll just stick it on the ground. I'll clear that up later. Look at that. Nice looking propeller. Oh, there we go. Need a little more dihedral on that one. Okay. One propeller. And so the propeller was damaged, and I'll show you why I think that was a legit damage. Okay. All right, so here's your propeller on your airplane. You're flying along. I'll put a little hole in there too, just to give it a spin. Here we go, arts and crafts here on the Super Pilotish channel. All right, here we go. So here's our propeller, and it's spinning around and spinning around and spinning around. So what happens if on some airplanes, if it's not like on smaller planes, it'll just have a propeller and it goes like that. But on other planes, it can kind of twist. It might twist a bit. So it would be If it gets damaged, they'll go into what they call the feathered position. So it would go like this, and the air is coming this way, and then there's less resistance. So that happens if there's a loss of oil pressure to the hub. And so there was one blade that was feathered, so that was damaged. The other blade was normal, like this, spinning around. And then it's a 3-bladed prop. The other one was bent right over. So, and the way that it was bent, so the way that it was bent was consistent with the way that propellers bend when they hit something. Okay, so if you've ever seen a propeller on an airplane, it doesn't exactly stay straight up and down like that. It actually does have a little bit of flex to it. It could be flexing forward a little bit, or it could be flexing backwards a little bit. And even if it's an aluminum propeller, which I think that was an aluminum propeller on there, wood propellers, you really notice it with if it's a composite covered wood propeller. I noticed that at Sioux College on the planes that they had there. And so you could sit there and hold the brakes. You'd watch someone from the side, they'd hold the brakes, and we'll say, okay, this is the nose of the airplane. And they'd hit the brakes, and then they give it the power. And so because you're pushing air backwards, your propeller is actually going to kind of go forwards like this. Okay, so there we go. And so if you take the power off, then it's nice and straight up and down. So you'll notice that planes that land, if they forget to put their landing gear down, they're coming down the plane of rotation of the propellers like this, and the propeller tips will bend. They'll bend back like that. There we go. And then so that's what happens if there's no power on there. But if you do have power on, just like the Reaper had, there's actually a little bit of a flex forward like that. And so if it gets hit, it's going to bend the other way back. Whoop. Clear as mud. And that's the way the one blade was bent in the proper way, where if it hits something, it hits something solid, like a wingtip, like I don't know what else. And hey, Jordan, see you here too. So that can be, that seemed legit for me. And like Dave was saying here in the comments here, that he was suspecting that they're acting mostly independently to dump fuel. And so it was. I don't think that's not a standard procedure to do for anything. They're not trained. I could see maybe them going up and taking a look or something like that. What is this plane? Because but the thing is that there are definite intercept procedures that the people that are flying the drone, whoever that is, probably some kid in a bunker in North Dakota watching the screen, playing his Xbox. but that's kind of what they do. They would be well trained in, especially if they know they're going into this contentious airspace, they would be well trained in how the intercept procedures would work. And usually you'd be trying to call someone on a certain frequency. There would be, in general, in any airspace you're flying into, if you shouldn't be there and you find out, oops, I'm here, you turn around and you get out. So if the drone was there mistakenly, the procedure would be like, oh, geez, we lost our satellite communications for a while. It went on autopilot straight into this Russian advisory space. Okay, let's turn around and get out. Let's squawk an emergency on the transponder. So there's lots of stuff. There's lots of ways that they could communicate to each other. And apparently that communication was not being done. And so I think the Russians are probably just horsing around, went up to take a look and hey, check it out. It's a drone. And I think, this is my armchair quarterback talking here, I think they just goofed up. And somebody's going to be, it's not going to be like Maverick, where all of a sudden those guys aren't going to be Maverick breaking rules and all of a sudden doing secret missions and stuff. I think they're going to be doing a little bit of paperwork, flying a desk for a little while. But so I think, my My take on that is that the video that was shown was probably real. I would say. I'm sure there was a little bit of there was some editing in there for sure, but it's the military, so you're never really gonna know. It's not like, and that's why I don't mind like armchair quarterbacking on military stuff because you're not gonna know the real truth ever. But if it's, and I try not to armchair quarterback too much on if it's incident with some plane crashes somewhere. You got to wait for the investigation to come out on that, and then they do serious investigation on it, and that usually becomes public. So, but I like armchair quarterbacking and watching YouTube videos like every other pilot out there. So, yeah. So my take on it, from the armchair quarterback is like, yep, it. I would say it happened. If the propeller was damaged that bad, it would be so unbalanced. It would probably shake the engine right off the mounts. So I'd imagine that the engine would be shut down immediately, and they probably glided it into the sea. Um, Probably because I'm sure it would still have some control as any aircraft. You have the ability to glide it, and it could probably go pretty far. But and then another thing there was I'm getting all of my brains all over the place here. But the other thing there too, people I've heard talking about, it crashed. Why didn't they make it self-destruct so that they can't get this technology? And I have a feeling it's not really all that high tech. The Reaper drone, I was looking on just on Wikipedia that it's the first designs of it were flying around in 2002. So it's a 21-year-old design. Anything that's on there, it's like, oh, here's a remote controlled camera. Big deal. You buy one of those, buy one of those on eBay. You get, what else? You got some kind of satellite tracking stuff that's been around forever. GPS technology, it's on your phone. So I don't think there's a whole lot of high tech involved with that, unless if they had some smarter missiles on it or something. Yeah, okay, maybe there's some new yeah, laser sighting or something like that. But anyways, and yeah, and like Dave is saying here too, they probably did a self-destruct a lot of the internal components. I'm sure they could, just the way that a phone gets bricked, you could probably brick the computers on that too and glide it into the sea. And ideally, they would probably not want to damage anyone on the ground. So they'd probably just glide it somewhere in the middle of the ocean there, away from people, because it was still pretty close to the coast. So, anyways, yeah, who knows? But I don't think it's really, yeah, I don't think it would really, blow it up, and you wouldn't want to just blow that up and like have shrapnel falling all over people and stuff like that. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot about too. They're saying, oh, how terrible it is for the environment to be dumping gas like that. Well, I mean, at the altitude that it was at, I have no idea. Taking a guess, 10,000 feet, maybe above. Yeah, I don't know if it's a turbine a little bit higher is more efficient for it. So even at a few thousand feet, it's kind of like if you got it. I'm thinking if you got you got a cup of water and you just splash a cup of water, it dissipates like that even before it hits the ground. Well, do that another few thousand feet up, and it'll probably just kind of disperse so much that it's just some air pollution at that point, and you'd probably get more air pollution off of that than the the jet exhaust of it flying around. So I don't think that's it's a big environmental damage. Like, no. They've dumped like tons and tons over the years. But like the engineers say, the what is it? Dilution is the solution to pollution. So it just atomizes and disappears basically with the wind. And you can even see that it begins the atomization process as they were dumping it with the jet exhaust. So yeah, okay. So is it real? Yep. Did it happen? Yep. Were they playing games? I think the thing is I think it was just they're playing their little games, nosing around. I think the Russians were not doing standard intercept procedures. and they're probably just horsing around. So there we go. And yeah, okay. So you can take what you want from that. My armchair quarterback. And like I said, I'll put a link in the after this when I do my post production. I'll put a link in the description below to. There's this website. It's called Air Boyd, and it's like a guy that's been uploading uh, videos about airplanes for years, and you can go through hours and hours of Air Boyd, lots of really good videos. So I'm gonna put a little link to that after I'm done here. And that's about it. St. Patrick's Day today. Anybody doing anything? I don't know. I might go. Might have a green beer somewhere. I'm not too sure. I usually go for a walk in the afternoon, and might walk down to the pub. But not. Yeah, I'm kind of past the age where I want to go nuts and listen to really loud Celtic music for hours and hours, drinking green beer. So yeah, so I guess I'll kind of go through here, see if we got any questions that need to be answered, or see if I forgot to say hello to people here. What do we got? Just a few people in the chat. That's all right. We got. Oh, here we go. Jordan brings up a good point. It's almost like the plane dumping its fuel, like it's taking a leak. Intentional symbolism? I don't know. Instead of poking on the bear, you're pissing on the bear. I know it's not a good idea to poke the bear. It didn't work for Hitler and Napoleon. So, anyways, what else we got here? Yeah. Okay, so that's about it. No big questions. What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And sometimes I get that. Okay, so that's about it today. Today is Friday. And so pizza date. So anyways, yeah, so I'll be back on Monday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And yeah, we'll just kind of shut her down. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. And thank you for watching. Bye.